Hello, and thank you for joining me today on The Political Conversationalist. My name is Ben Phipps. We're still talking about divisive and controversial issues. Today we're talking about financial aid. So, not too long ago, Bernie Sanders got extremely popular with two words: free college. That resonated with a lot of people because college is very, very expensive, and it resonated specifically with people my age and with people typically in my circumstances. The middle class. Not quite poor enough to where the government will pay for your entire education, not quite rich enough where your parents can afford to pay for your entire education. So we end up with the most debt, the most student loans, and things like that. However, he said he was going to make college free. So how was he going to make college free? Well, he said Wall Street was going to pay for it. Now, we in America have this image of Wall Street in our head of being wealthy bankers and CEOs, hedge fund managers, the elite, the billionaires. We think, Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump and people like that have money on the stock market, but it's a lot more than that. First off, almost every business is on the stock market, every major business. Your corporations like Walmart, McDonald's, Procter & Gamble, pharmaceutical corporations like Valiant, just any corporation you can think of is probably on the stock market in one way or another. Even if it's owned by another company, you don't see that specific name on there. It's on there somewhere. So all the businesses are on there. Not to mention there are a lot of individuals on the stock market. And I'm not talking about people who day trade or recreationally trade stocks or just keep their savings money in the stock market so it'll grow slowly. I'm talking about the average person has money in the stock market. If you have any kind of retirement plan, if you have a Roth IRA or a 401k, that money from your job that is for your retirement is saved in the stock market. And should something horrible happen to the stock market, it's going to impact that money in your retirement account. Not only that, but a popular new-ish type of insurance is called a health savings account, in which preventative care is covered, and then you have a savings account that your employer contributes to and you can contribute to, and you can use that money to pay for some medical expenses. That money is also saved on the stock market, and should anything catastrophic happen to the stock market, it will negatively affect that money. So there's pretty much everyone on the stock market. Now, going back to what I said about almost all businesses being on the stock market, the businesses we use on a daily basis, almost all of them are on the stock market. Walmart, Lowe's, Dollar General, all of these businesses somehow are on the stock market. When you go to the grocery store, that grocery store, almost 100% chance is on the stock market. Unless you buy everything locally from a farmer's market or from your neighbor, you're dealing with businesses that are on the stock market. And what we learned from Trump's tariffs is that at least short term, when you cause any new or up any expense to a business, they do one of three things or all three. They raise prices, lower wages, and dramatically cut the labor force or lay people off. So how free is it really when I take a $5 an hour pay cut because of it? Or how free is it really when I go to Walmart and paper towels are $8 a roll? Or how free is it really when I get laid off because of it? Not very free at all. Not only that, but Bernie went on to say that this massive tax on the stock market still wouldn't pay for everything. So he proposed that the states would mandatorily kick in another 25%. So the stock market would take care of 3/4 of the cost of college, and then the states would pay for another 25%. So how do states with a deficit almost every year, who are spending more money than they have and having to borrow money from the federal government, how are they going to be required to kick in more money to this program? Well, that's where you're going to pay for it again, bud, because your taxes are going up. So you end up saying it's free. But when I took economics, my economics professor taught me something very, very important. There's no such thing as free. Either you pay for it, someone else pays for it, or you don't know it, but you're still paying for it. And the example he gave was McDonald's. At McDonald's, they have napkins. You can walk in off the street, grab a handful of napkins, and leave. They're not going to say anything to you 9 times out of 10. If you buy a burger, you can buy a $1 cheeseburger and grab 400 napkins and walk out the door, and they're probably not going to say anything to you. But the napkins aren't free. They look free, but they're not, because every purchase you make, it's been factored in that per sandwich we sell, we use an average of blank amount of napkins. And so if they didn't offer napkins, your food would be a little cheaper. But because they do, the napkin price has already been factored in to the food price. So you're paying for it, you just didn't know you were paying for it. And you're also, again, paying for those people who walk in and grab a handful of napkins and don't buy anything. So you're paying for their napkins too. But anyway, so it wouldn't be free. So what needs to be done though? Because I agree, it's very expensive. I am a millennial, unfortunately, with all the stigmas that come with that label. I am a millennial, and I see all the problems with the financial aid system. It's very expensive. Even bankruptcy can't save you from a student loan. There are many problems with it. So my solution is an individual solution, not a governmental solution. See, whereas Bernie says we should go the way a little bit of socialism to fix this issue, I say we should let capitalism play itself out. First off, you don't have to go to college. So many times we see advertisements and we take them with a grain of salt. If you see an advertisement on TV for Bud Light or whatever, it shows all these people having fun on the beach or whatever. You know you can have fun on the beach without a beer. But the message that the TV is trying to get across to you is that if you have that beer, you'll have more fun on the beach. And by associating those things with good things, just like cigarette ads, especially in magazines, you see cigarette ads and it tries to make it sexual looking or whatever, you'll be sexy if you smoke cigarettes kind of thing. That kind of promise is the backbone of advertising, and the promise that colleges have made to high school students is, if you want to be successful, if you want to get the girl, if you want to have fun, if you want to play sports, you have to go to a 4-year university. There is no way to successfully live your life without a bachelor's degree, at least. That has been pumped into the high schools, and even now sometimes junior highs and middle schools, for so long that 2 generations believe it wholeheartedly. That's not exactly the case. So, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 66% of jobs don't require a degree at all. Now, high school diploma, yes. GED, yes. There's nothing wrong with finishing high school. You should absolutely finish high school. But college doesn't guarantee a job. Now, I did read some statistics on college graduates being unemployed or underemployed. Underemployed being not being paid what they should be paid because of their degree. And the estimates for that range between 1/8 and all the way up to 44%. And the reason I mentioned that is because the ones that said 44% were obviously very conservative websites, and the one that said only 1/8 was obviously a very liberal website. So somewhere in the middle is the truth. And I would say it'd probably be around 20-ish% if I had to guess, of people who aren't making use of their degrees and are working a vocational type or a menial job. Of course, remember in Ant-Man when he says, I have an electrical engineering degree, and then he's working at Baskin Robbins. So, but that kind of thing happens quite a bit. The reason for that is that over 30% of people over 25 have a bachelor's degree. So the job market is saturated, specifically in psychology and not so much in nursing, but in psychology and business. There we go. In psychology and business, there are so many bachelor's degrees floating around there. Those are the 2 most popular. Lots of people have them. So jobs have the ability to say, okay, well, I have this job. This job needs someone with a bachelor's degree in business. So I have 400 candidates. Let me pick the one who's going to do the most work for the least money. And that allows them to be picky and choosy with who they're hiring, and it also allows them to pay you less. So the job market is saturated with bachelor's degrees right now. What it's not saturated with is vocational degrees. Now, I looked again at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to try to see what were some of the fastest growing careers in America. And what I found out was that electricians, plumbers, and welders are in extremely high demand. In fact, those sectors are growing faster. I believe it was by 5 or 6%. You have to check the link out in the Google Doc below. But 5 or 6% faster than the other sectors that are also growing. And the cool thing about those is that I think as an electrician you have to have a 2-year degree, but as far as a plumber or a welder, I think you can get a certificate in that in less than a year. And I have 2 2-year degrees, and I've spent less than $5,000 on my education. So you can get a very cheap education as compared to the $60,000 in debt most people have coming out of a 4-year degree. You can get a $5,000 education and become an electrician or a plumber or a welder. And the median pay for those coming out of college is $40,000. Now, $40,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you live thrifty and you don't have very much debt, in that you can pay your way through a community college instead of getting loans, then $40,000 is a very good, very respectable amount of money. And that's, of course, going to increase as your efficiency increases, as your skill increases, and as you get more experience. But they're way cheaper to obtain those technical degrees. And fewer people are getting these vocational degrees. Fewer people are becoming welders. Fewer people are becoming plumbers or electricians. And it's because we have this stigma in America that everyone has to work in an office. If you want to be successful, you work in an office. If you work with your hands, if you work in a factory, if you're a carpenter or whatever, you're not successful to a lot of people. And again, that's advertisement from the colleges into the high schools teaching people you have to go to college to be successful. So let's get rid of that. Now, if we have an entire generation of people my age and a little bit younger who say, you know what, I don't want to go to a 4-year college, I don't want to get a 4-year degree, I'm going to go take BLET, basic law enforcement training, and be a police officer. That's a very respectable path. Police officers don't make as much money as they should. That's a very respectable path for a livable wage, and that's a good idea. If we have people like my brother-in-law who decides, well, I don't really like school, but I do like making things, I'm going to have to get a little 2-year machining degree. Got a 2-year machining degree, makes good money. That kind of thing is happening on a small scale, but if that happened on a major scale, if we push the vocations in schools, if we allowed people to be nurses and CNAs and welders and plumbers and electricians and all those things, if we had an entire generation that tried to be those things instead of trying to be the 4-year degree running a hedge fund type of person, then 2 things would happen. Firstly, jobs would have to pay more because there would be fewer people to pick from, therefore they would have to pay more to get a good one. Secondly, colleges would have to lower their wages so that they would actually get people, or lower their tuition rather, so that actually people would come in. So the issue with college in America is not that it's too expensive. That is a symptom. College in America is too expensive because it has been taught for so long that it is absolutely 100% necessary to go to college to succeed. That is absolutely incorrect. Anyway, I hope you learned something today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.